All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today for the industry update. We appreciate you getting on the call. As always, please leave your lines muted and we will address all questions at the end. And we'll be recording and we will definitely send out the recording afterwards. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to John. He will be taking the helm today.
Thank you very much, Hope. And thank you all for joining us today. I'm very glad to be with you. As a reminder, today's webinar is designed for the benefit of our restaurant, hotel, travel, and tourism members and non-members and friends of PRLA. It is an off-the-record webinar. It's not designed for press purposes. So if you're with the press, feel free to disconnect now and call back, and we'll talk with you at any time that you need any help with any of your articles or newscasts. As Hope pointed out, I'm pinch hitting for Melissa today, and I'm no Melissa Bova, but I'll do my best to try to cover things as best we can. Melissa may join us later for some of the hard questions, but if not, you'll have to just throw me softballs today. Of course, this is a really exciting week for our restaurants and a little bit less exciting for private events, but it's exciting for restaurants because they're getting back to some sense of normalcy with the highest occupancy levels in over a year since before the pandemic started. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But before we get to that, on the first slide, if we may, on the federal update, I wanted to give you a quick update on the restaurant revitalization grant program. This is the $28.6 billion grant that is going to restaurants that came out of the American Rescue Plan Act. And I will point out that this was by far the largest of only three specific carve-outs for industries. Restaurant industry got $28.6 billion. Music clubs and venues got $1.25 billion, and aviation got $3 billion, and no other industry got any specific funds. This is due to the work of all of you in responding to our action alerts and writing to your senators and congressmen in Washington, and to our friends at the National Restaurant Association and the good work of the PRLA team in bringing this to the forefront of the importance of our industry. This is going to be a complicated program, I'm afraid, because it's the first time that the SBA has administered a grant program. They typically deal with loans. The PPP program was technically a loan program, but it was a forgivable loan. They're working on the guidance for it right now. There will be a comprehensive frequently asked question document, an FAQ, that we'll release in the next 48 hours that's being worked on by our friends at the National Restaurant Association. It will be as thorough as possible at this point in time. So look for that in the daily update. We can tell you that the intention is that the first round of grants will open at the by the end of April. Now, the first round, as you may recall from the initial information, will go to disadvantaged business restaurants, minority-owned, women-owned, and veteran-owned restaurants. And then about 21 days after that, it'll open to the rest of the eligible restaurants. So there's still a little bit of time before the grants are going to be made available. That's when it's going to open. What you need to apply, we're not 100% sure of. And as you know, initially they said that you needed a SAMS number or a DUN number. And a lot of you spent a lot of time getting those together. And then they decided they couldn't administer those. So we're going to wait until we get the final documentation on what exactly you need. And we should have that within the next 48 hours. So watch for that. We've mentioned on every call about the National Restaurant Association's Public Affairs Conference that they do in conjunction with their 52 state restaurant association partners, of which PRLA is one. This is a really important conference this year. They're always important, but this is especially important because there is absolute momentum on a minimum wage bill in Washington. The original proposal, as you saw, was $15 an hour and eliminating the tipped wage. That did not get the momentum to get included in the American Rescue Plan Act, but it is still very much alive. And we need to talk to our senators and congressmen about this and other things, about aid that our industry still needs. So it's important that you get to the Public Affairs Conference. It's virtually free. It's $50 for PA Restaurant and Lodging Association members, and you can use the discount code PAFC member in order to get that discount. And the first day on the 20th is programming, and some of the speakers that are going to be there are Senator Joe Manchin, Senator Kristen Sinema from Arizona, Dana Perino, Rahm Emanuel, our own Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, who was instrumental in getting the Restaurant Revitalization Grant program passed. So it's going to be a great program. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be meeting virtually with our congressmen and hopefully both of our senators. You'll be paired with a congressman from your district. So they really want to see you as their constituent. And please sign up for it. But lastly, let me tell you how excited I am about the participation of Pennsylvanians. Right now, we are tied for the lead with the number of registrants of all states in the country. And the one that we're tied with is California, which is a little bit larger than Pennsylvania. So thank you for your dedication and for really responding to our calls to action to attend the National Restaurant Association Public Affairs Conference, April 20th to 22nd. So moving from there, we'll go on to a few things that are happening at the state level. As you know, we have some alcohol priorities for our licensees. Very excited to report that since last time we got together, two of those that are extremely important, one a little bit more important than the other, but both important, moved their way through the House, out of the House. They were voted by the committee unanimously to the House, and then the House moved them out, which means they go to the Senate now. One is really a cool provision, and it takes, if you're a licensee discount, right now you're getting or licensee, you're getting a 10% discount for products that you buy from the PLCB, with the exception of special liquor orders, which are already discounted. And however, this will increase that from 10% to 15%. It's a significant increased discount for licensees, and it will run for 3 years, effective at the time that the pandemic is officially over, for 3 years after that. That's a really huge win for us. Now, it still has to go through the Senate, and it starts with the Senate Law and Justice Committee, chaired by our friend Senator Regan, who unfortunately recently had a very difficult motorcycle accident and is in recovering from 2 broken legs. So his committee is moving a little bit more slowly than it normally would. But as soon as we get it through that committee, the Law and Justice Committee in the Senate, to the full Senate, we believe it'll be passed out of the Senate and it will become law. The second item is one that allows folks that go out of business, and I'm sorry to have to deal with restaurants that go out of business, but unfortunately that's happening now. And right now there's nothing they can do with their product. This bill will allow them to sell unused product to other licensees. So that's important as well. There are some other priorities in the liquor, in our liquor bills that did not get passed, but we anticipate getting those included in legislation and other bills, or wording in other legislation. So we're not done with our alcohol priorities, but these are 2 big things that have been worked through the process. Wanted to mention vaccine passports. You've probably seen a little bit about this in the news. There is legislation working in Pennsylvania that would essentially make it not possible to require vaccine passports, but that you would be allowed to require it at businesses, but it would not become a state law about vaccine passports. There's a little bit of controversy about vaccine passports right now. We're following that closely, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening on that as it works its way through. Also wanted to mention that next week, next Tuesday, the Senate Majority Policy Committee is having a hearing to talk about the impact of the pandemic and the resulting mitigation on the travel and tourism industry. This is next Tuesday. Many of our destination marketing organization friends, some of our restaurant and hotel operators, and some heads of other associations that represent travel and tourism will be testifying, as well as the PRLA and yours truly. The point of this is to try to help the Senate Policy Committee, Majority Policy Committee, which is open to all Republican senators, understand the impact that the pandemic and the mitigation has had on travel and tourism. Why this is important is really 2 reasons. One is that there'll be press that will come out of this, and it'll continue to highlight the fact that we're far from out of the woods on this pandemic, and we still need help. Specifically, we need the $1 billion, $8 billion of the money that's coming to state and local grant money to go to the travel and tourism and restaurant and hotel industry. We need money for our destination marketing organizations. We'll be able to make those points there, and it'll help us to also get the press to keep shining a light on the difficulties of our industry. So thanks to many of you who are on the call already, who are testifying with us next week. It's an important hearing. We will continue to shine a light on the issues that we're facing in the industry. So now for the exciting news is that restaurants are at 75% if they're self-certified, 50% if they're not self-certified, with the exception of Philadelphia, which has its own rules. Barriers, bar seating is back, which is really important, and bar blocks are also permitted. Bar blocks can be used in lieu of social distancing between parties at the bar. The party size at the bar was limited to 4 people in the green phase. There is now no limit on the party size as long as the people are together and they're one party. And then there needs to be either social distancing or a bar block between those. A little bit of a nuance that's been added to the guidelines this time is that you can also use barriers between tables in lieu of social distancing, such as plexiglass barriers that might be set up between tables. I don't know how many people will take advantage of this. They might just be willing to try to wait out the social distancing requirements, but those are permitted now if that's something that makes sense for you. The requirement that you sell a meal to a patron that wants to buy a drink has been eliminated, so people can actually get a beer or a glass of wine without buying a dinner now. And lastly, the 11 o'clock alcohol curfew has been lifted. So there is no more requirement that you have to give last call at 11 o'clock. All this is good for restaurants. Obviously, the people are ready to go back out and eat. They understand that restaurants are safe. I think as data has been accumulated from state to state over the last year, we now realize that restaurants are one of the more safe places to go. And so consequently, people are standing in line in many cases to get into restaurants. We also understand that this is causing a staffing crisis for restaurants. We had a crisis, if some of you can remember, before we went into the pandemic. Most people think it's even worse today. And part of that is because of the enhanced unemployment benefits that those that are on unemployment are getting right now. Of course, those will run out and people will need to get their jobs back. But in the meantime, it's really tight. PRLA is doing everything we can to try to help get people into your open positions. We'll continue to try to find new ways to assist in any way that we can. Should also point out that events, we feel were kind of left behind in this, and we've pointed that out very adamantly by being raised from 15% to 25% for indoor events and 50% for outdoor events. That's really not going to bring back the event industry, and it's really putting it's causing a very difficult time, particularly for spring events that are booked in May and beyond that. There's no question we've made this very clear with the administration, and my belief is that they're considering another announcement that will happen sometime this month that will hopefully be in the foreseeable future that will get events back to some reasonable capacity. And lastly, on the state mitigation, I wanted to point out that vaccines will now be open to all effective on April 19th, and you can begin to register in 66 of the 67 counties, which not including Philadelphia, as of April 12th. Philadelphia is already offering vaccines to restaurant and hotel workers, which is good, but everyone and restaurant and hotel workers are frankly with the general population for the most part, but everyone will be eligible on April 19th, assuming they can find a vaccine and they can begin to register on the 12th. So if I were you, I'd begin looking for that for you and encourage your team members to start looking for vaccines on April 12th, right around the corner. So with that, lastly, Philadelphia, there's no changes to the current standards. However, there is a hearing today at 2 p.m. on restaurant guidance. As you know, the real difficulty in Philadelphia is that they put into place a ventilation standard that would allow restaurants to get to 50% if they can meet the ventilation standards. Very, very few restaurants have been able to do so. It's less than 200 out of 6,000. It's the only jurisdiction in the country that has such standard, and it's clearly not working. When they'll figure that out, we're not sure, but we continue to work on that. And then lastly, as reported last week at the Allegheny County Council level, Allegheny County passed a mandated paid sick leave rule, and County Executive Rich Fitzgerald correctly vetoed it because he felt like it had been constructed in an illegal fashion and they didn't follow the right rules in passing the legislation. The council did not override the veto. That's good news, but they will be working on still passing mandated paid sick leave, but doing it legally rather than the way that was done before. So again, we applaud County Executive Rich Fitzgerald for wanting to do things the right way and upholding the law. So with that, Hope, if you want to give the announcements, I'll look at the very few questions we have and see what we need to talk about.
Sure, great. Well, thank you, everybody, for getting on. We do have some chapter meetings coming up. They've been going on this week. They started on Monday. Some of these are legislative roundtables. I believe the Lehigh Valley one is a legislative roundtable. So please take the time to check out our calendar, make sure that you're getting signed up for ones that you think would be interesting to join and participating with your local restaurateurs and hoteliers and anybody in the industry. Melissa will be back next week for her industry update on the 14th. We will be taking off on the 21st of April due to the Public Affairs Conference, and then we'll be back at the end of the month. The NRA had advertised a new webinar coming up on the 22nd, talking about the future of tipping under the Biden administration. So they're going to be addressing the current status of the regulations, ongoing efforts to modify the minimum wage, tip credit, and the legal developments that are happening in some states where this would be affecting tip employment. So please check that out. And then the OSHA compliance webinar will be going on at the end of the month. This is just trying to help you to operate safely during this pandemic with the ever-changing OSHA compliance. Our job board has really been bulking up, and we have been doing an active marketing through our social media channels and through our communications with our HARP applicants and our scholarship applicants, so that they understand that the opportunities are available for them to review. So we are working on some other ideas on how to get the job board out to the public so that we can help you with the staffing issue. HARP, we are on our final stages of applications and working on some good fundraising for 2021 and looking to continue this. I think Heidi is going to be sharing at all the chapter meetings the social media kit that we put together, that if you wanted to use that for your customers to help with fundraising for the Relief Fund, we will be putting that on our website, but you'll also be sharing it at the chapter meetings. And as always, we are doing training for ServSafe. So please make sure that you're getting into classes or getting individuals certified and up to date with reopening up to 75%. You want to make sure your staff has their certifications in place. And our virtual competition is in full swing for this month. We have gotten 7 submissions for culinary and 3 for management, and the judges will be getting the proposals today for them to start reviewing, and we hopefully have a winners to announce at the end of this month. And with that, John, I think we are on to questions.
Hey, thank you, Hope. Nicole asked about restaurant guests still wearing masks while seated at a table, not actively eating and drinking. They are still required to do so. So the question, so in your restaurant, your team members need to wear masks unless they have a job that makes it unsafe to wear a mask or they have a medical issue. And guests have to wear masks while moving around the restaurant. So when they're seated at a table, they don't have to wear one. There was a Philadelphia requirement was a little bit different than that. I think you have to wear one while not actively eating and drinking. In the state guidance, you just have to wear one when moving around the restaurant. So when you're seated, you don't have to wear one. Question from Tom Hardy about Chirp grants in Allegheny County specifically. We were informed last week, I think Allison pointed out that the money was exhausted in Allegheny County. There will be, that doesn't mean all counties are exhausted, so you should still be looking at it in the other counties that you're looking for, or that you reside in. So, Tom, no guidance as to whether there's more money coming. I don't think there is, but anyway, just follow the guidance that the Allegheny County website is saying. Stacy asked about being that she's an event venue with a catering club license, no members per se, did not certify, can I operate at 50% for my events? An indoor event would be considered they describe it as a discrete event, which would be an event where it's essentially not open to the public, and it has essentially an invited guest list to it. That would still operate under the 25% capacity. If it's open to if it's open for any members to come in this case, or any members of the public, then you're really a restaurant and you can operate at 50% capacity. It's a slight nuance, but that's really the way rules are written. Is there a link for the 2 p.m. Philly hearing? I don't know if anybody looked for that yet, but maybe somebody else that's on the call from the PRLA team can check that out. I'm not aware of that one. Barbara Fetto mentioned that if you can sign that you can sign up for vaccines now, and you should absolutely, definitely try to get signed up now if you can, not wait till the 12th, which is essentially what Bob is saying, because the ones that are there will go fast, and you'll have trouble getting signed up for sure. So Bob, thanks for that advice. Don't know whether anybody from the PRLA team came up with the 2 p.m. link for the hearing yet, but outside of that, that's the end of the questions, Hope.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. We'll try and get that up there before we get off the call. We appreciate everybody getting on the call today with us. And if we don't get it up there in time, we will make sure to get that out to you. We'll just email that link out to you so that you have it, and we'll get that over to you. With that, I think we're done. We will, be back next week and as always, send us questions if you have questions. During the week, we will definitely be able to help you out, and we'll send you out a recording of this. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hope, and thanks everybody for tuning in today.